Today I'm taking a look at the vintage Diaclone Skybase set from 1982. There's very few of these in the wild, and given that this one is in almost brand new condition, I feel somewhat obligated to share it and help spread an appreciation for this amazing toy. So Skybase, or Birdbase as it's otherwise known, is a transforming mobile command base for the Diaclone forces that, as you guessed, is primarily aerial in nature. It's essentially a spaceship that can land and transform into a base, which is where its various play mechanics are accessed. Skybase was released in 1982, just 2 years after the Diaclone line kicked off. By that time, it was enjoying great success and was Takara's premier line of boys' toys. However, it was about to undergo some major changes. Everything from 1980 to 82 was very sci-fi or SF themed. Toys like Dia Battles, Big Powered, Dia Attacker and Robot Base, which incidentally you can check out a review of on this channel, were all focused on the good guy Dianauts battling the bad guy Waruda race out in space. But 1982 saw the release of a different type of Diaclone toy in the form of Diaclone Car Robot No. 1, the LP500S, which eventually became Transformers Sunstreaker. Car Robot No. 1 started a trend of more everyday object transforming robots, which turned out to be more popular, and so the line continued on that trajectory. By 1983, Convoy was introduced along with a slew of car robots, then Dinobots, Constructicons, and so on, which caught Hasbro's attention immediately, and Diaclone never returned to its sci-fi roots. With this change of direction, Takara only produced and released Skybase in relatively small numbers, which made this a very difficult toy to track down. I purchased this one on Yahoo Auctions Japan during the pandemic after a few months of searching, and I'm really happy with it. Getting into the nuts and bolts of the toy, I always like to start with the box experience, especially if it's a vintage piece. This one is absolutely one of my favorites, there's so much going on. Skybase looks super dynamic and detailed in this main illustration that fills the entire width of the box. If you look closely, you can see 3 Dianaut pilots sitting in the cockpit. The next thing my eye goes to is the bold katakana Skybase at the top, along with the English line, the Skybase changes to the Birdbase. To be clear, the Skybase mode is its aerial form and Birdbase is its land-based battle station mode that you can see here. It seems kind of confusing as the spaceship could easily be the Birdbase, but the box clearly indicates which is which. To the right of that, we have the only window on the box, which is a cutaway to show the 5 included Dianaut figures. That's really generous, so you already get the feeling that this is a special set. Down in the bottom corner, we have an illustration of the Skyrobo looking very cool, and oddly having a photo of the 3 small vehicles that combine to form him kind of shooting out of his chest. Then the last major detail is this breakout at the bottom with the Birdbase mode, showing what the actual toy looks like and giving a quick indication of the amount of play. We're also introduced to the 3 parts of Skyrobo, creatively named Head Sky, Leg Sky, and Breast Sky. On the top, we get a new reverse angle of the Skybase in its Skybase mode, and then on the right, the same shot of Birdbase from the front of the box, but mirrored. Moving to the bottom, we get the same 2 main illustrations from the front. The sides, however, do a fantastic job of letting you know exactly what you're paying for. One side gives us numerous perspective shots of Skybase from the front, side, and top, as well as the Skyrobo toy from the front and side. I can't read Japanese, but I don't think it's made clear here that you can't have both of these at the same time, as the head sky part of Skyrobo is your front beak of Skybase. Moving down, you get a detailed blurb about what Skybase can do and how it is used as a high-speed mobile base to battle the invading Waruda army. And below that, a similar perspective shot series of the Birdbase mode. This also shows how the 3 Skyrobo vehicles integrate into the Birdbase. Finally, a little fictional data box gives some info about how big and heavy the real base might be. Flipping to the other side, we get bolder and more dynamic panels with photos that show Skybase transforming as well as Skyrobo combining. To me, this is the clearest photo that shows a Dianaut can be positioned inside Skyrobo. There's no back on this, it's a classic 5-sided cardboard on polystyrene with an overlay card underneath that's got numerous windows through to the toy. Diving into the polystyrene layout, we can finally see what's in the box. I did say at the start that this one is almost brand new, and as you can see it's pristine, however it's actually incomplete. There's a tiny little yellow flag accessory called the Space Monitor that was missing from my set. I'm not too cut up about that, and to be honest I completely forgot about it until I was doing this review. Apart from one of the spare missiles, this was the part that you could care least about I think missing, so I feel like I got pretty lucky. Everything's well packed so it can't move, and there are additional blocks holding down the larger items. Pulling it all out, we can see that we have the Skybase itself, the Skyrobo, which comes pre-combined, the Move Shooter, which is a type of command sled, the Test Beam cannon, 2 freeze-on missile launchers, as well as 4 missiles in total, the Space Radar, which is just a small plastic satellite dish, the manual, and a sticker sheet. Finally, the set comes with a whopping 5 Dianaut pilots, all the Type variant, so they have very chunky magnet feet. Each has white arms and legs, as well as an unpainted single piece head and back. They then each have a different coloured front torso, black, red, blue, green, yellow, with a silver painted detail in the chest. There's nice detail all over in the moulded plastic parts and the die-cast metal, with a well-sculpted face and a very robotic-looking back panel. So now we start getting into the toy itself, and I'm going to do this in reverse a bit, starting with the base mode and then working back to the ship. Much like the rest of the vintage Diaclone line, it's about putting the tiny Diaclone pilots, or Dianauts, into little vehicles or cockpits or gun turret stations. I'm showing it set up in the suggested configuration based on the box photos, but the radar dish, gun turret, and the space monitor, if you have it, are all interchangeable. In fact, the missile launchers are the same port size too, so while you wouldn't put the radar on one side of the front cockpit, you can put the missile launchers on the top, which is kind of cool. You have the front cockpit, which sits right down on the ground and is designed to hold the head-sky vehicle. There's a number of spring-loaded projectile mechanics on Diaclone Skybase, and head-sky here is the first. Pushing it back into place loads it up, and then there's a button on the cockpit's left-hand side that will send it rolling off. The side missiles also fire, these in a much more satisfying way. As I mentioned, the missile launchers are compatible with most of the ports around the base, so you can get creative almost anywhere you see a hole. The main wing areas also feature a spring-loaded mechanic intended for use with the breast sky and leg sky vehicles. These are pushed back and then fired out by pushing down on the plastic tab behind the yellow partition. At the back of the base, we have the red gun turret, which is fixed in place. Our gunner can angle the turret up and down slightly to adjust for enemy targets. The top cockpit has a very nice orange windshield which opens up to reveal another cavity for the Move Shooter. Sadly, this means you can't have a pilot in the top cockpit as well as in the front. There is a reason for this though. Most toys of the era have a standout gimmick, and for Skybase, it's this incredible chute that launches the pilot from the top rear cockpit all the way along the base's central area and down into the bird nose vehicle, from which point he can presumably pilot the ship or launch off in it as a separate ship. To make it work, first you need to transform into base mode and ensure you have the head sky pulled back in place so it stays spring-loaded. Then you can load a Dianaut into the Move Shooter, which allows them to be stored in the top cockpit area, which should be in its rearmost position. Then when you're ready to fire, there's a black lever on the left side of the cockpit that you push downways, which will angle the inside of the cockpit and slide the Move Shooter to the back. Then lift up on the black lever at the back and the Dianaut pilot will launch through a trapdoor, down the slide and drop satisfyingly into the cockpit of the head sky. It's a wonderful practical gimmick that you'll find yourself repeating constantly, just to see how many times in a row he'll do it perfectly without crashing the sled. Lastly, for the Birdbase mode, there's the radar dish right at the top back. The yellow part it mounts into allows you to tilt it up and down, but this feels unnecessary. I'm not sure what other accessories would merit this ability to change angles, so I feel like it's just a design feature to make it look good, but sadly adds little to no play value. Once the Dianauts receive their orders to roll out, transforming to aerial mode Skybase is pretty straightforward, but enough to be fun. Just flip up the internal walls. On mine, one side is very hard to flip out and in. I can't see any stress marks on the plastic, but it makes me nervous. Then fold in the outer wings. While the torso and leg vehicles of Skyrobo can be stored into the wing sections when the base is transformed, it feels just a bit squishy for the Dianauts if they're in place. I'm not sure if it's meant to support them being stored in there. 2 folds and they're all in place, and Birdbase is already more condensed. Our top cockpit comes down to fill the gap below, and the final step is lifting the nose up into place. On mine, the wings stay tightly in place, but the nose is a little loose. Skybase looks incredible and very late 70s to early 80s. Pretty much the very first toy I remember my parents buying me as a kid was the Bandai Starbird spaceship from 1980. The bird vibes take me right back to that toy, but it didn't have anywhere near the play value of this guy. Of course, there's also Skyrobo, the combining mech that you can form using the 3 vehicles. To transform him, just pull to extend the leg sky, connect to the breast sky at the waist, and flip the arms forwards. Then angle head sky, and you can clip it in at the back, and it's ready to go. Your Dianaut can stand up in the head sky so that in Skyrobo mode, its head will look forwards. This is very Diaclone and very cool. Skyrobo has a bend at the elbow, but other than that, there's no articulation. So that's the vintage Diaclone Skybase from 1982. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to see more similar content in future. I'll also be uploading a second video to the channel that's just showing extended beauty shots of the toy, so please check that out if you're interested. Thanks for watching.